The first story. As a child, I attended a Southern Baptist school, which was very strict and authoritarian. For the simplest contacts, such as holding hands or hugging, we were suspended from work. And, even worse, the teachers were watching us like sentries. In this regard, we had a little rebellious idea. Several of us, daring teenagers, decided to sneak out for a couple of minutes to various places. We were sure that we would succeed, but our secret rendezvous corner was found only once. It happened when I was in the final grades. The backstage part of our school auditorium turned into a small theater, which it closed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except when masses or theater lessons were held there. One day, when I was practicing before the performance, I noticed that someone had left a key in the lock of the back door going backstage. It turned out that I had the same key in my pocket, and I hid it. No one noticed. It was a real happiness for me at that time, because I was a simple guy full of energy and hormones. I was very in love with one girl, and we had already managed to arrange secret kisses and touches several times, but we did not dare to go beyond that, for fear of being caught and expelled from school. Her parents were strict Baptists, her father was a pastor, and she could never spend the weekend anywhere outside the house, even spending the night with a friend. She often flashed me folded notes in which she described all the dirty fantasies that she wanted to fulfill. We spent months looking for a place to meet, and finally, this key became our secret ticket to the world of fun and enjoyment. The right day came when she told me in the hallway before the first lesson that my sister was having a choir concert in high school today, so my mom would come for us an hour later. I had to leave the classroom after the previous lesson and meet her outside the church door. I apologized to the kind old librarian, saying that I had a job in the computer lab, as I was lagging behind with a project. She let me go. I casually strolled around the campus, carefully avoiding the teachers, and headed for the church. Of course, she was already there and waiting for me. We went inside and locked the door. For an hour and a half, we forgot about our worries and had fun, enjoying mutual kisses and light touches under the light of dim candles in this quiet church. I will never forget the most indecent sentence I have ever heard. She whispered it in my ear, saying that God was watching us and she wanted me to play with her for real. We were never caught, and if God was really watching us, then I'm sure he was the one who left me the key that day. Anyway, it was a funny story, and 2 of my shining moments remained in my memory for the rest of my life. The combination of the place, the cemetery, and the scene of the 90s, made in a Gothic style, was an attractive place for college students to meet and relax. Girls predominated in our neighborhood, and the ratio was about 5 to 1. For a young man who was ready to put on makeup in platform boots and comb his hair, it was easy enough to get a girlfriend in such a place. The competition was practically zero. In addition, I had an additional plus: I was a singer and guitarist in a band that was famous in our area. One evening, right after our concert, I decided to take my equipment off the stage. I felt the touch of hair, and turning around, I saw a very beautiful girl smiling at me. She said she loves our band and she likes my hairstyle. I went home with her and we spent some wonderful weeks together. She wasn't the type I wanted to have a long-term relationship with, as she was into magic and spells, and her conversations on this topic were strange to me. But everything was fine in the bedroom. One evening, she had her dancer friend, and we started joking and playing pranks on each other. Her friend had a tattoo with a fire symbol between her thighs, so we started making jokes about her and my own tattoo. At one point, she even showed her body to demonstrate that she was clean. I was amazed by her reaction, and we decided to go to the local cemetery, where college students like to gather to drink and have fun. This place was called the Vampire Castle because it was huge and mystical. The view from the hill where the cemetery was located opened up to the whole city. We were sitting there enjoying drinks and conversation and discussing our pranks at the concert. However, my girlfriend started acting stupid and kept touching her friend's fiery tattoo. She told her to stop, but they both laughed. Everything was going pretty well, and we were already planning to return home to continue the fun. But one day we took several pills that had an unexpected effect on us. We were extremely tired. I was disappointed because I really wanted to chat with my friends. A few weeks later, I had an affair with my former neighbor, who was a 42-year-old woman and attractive in appearance. I was 20 years younger at the time. I've always admired her from a distance, never imagining that anything could work out between us. She left 4 years ago, but we accidentally bumped into each other via Instagram. She wrote me a personal message expressing her pleasure at my work and saying that I look very good. An interesting game has begun. We corresponded for about 3 days, and on the third evening everything happened. She couldn't help but kiss me right away. She took my number from the phone of her son, who was playing football, and we went to her house. It was incredibly fun and unforgettable. The rest is history. As it turned out, she knew all the news and intrigues from the lives of other neighbors with whom I had never communicated. I found out that John, a bicycle repairman, was a gay and religious guy who was married and had children. And his wife preferred all sex exclusively from behind, which is why she had short hair. It was overwhelming. We kept sending each other weird but exciting photos. However, we both agreed that it was better not to make a public connection. I worked in a blockbuster movie in a decent neighborhood in the 90s when I was getting ready to go to college. There I met a very attractive adult woman who came in from time to time for movie recommendations and always flirted with me a little. One day, when I was working on the shelves, she asked if I lived nearby and offered me to earn some money while she was on a business trip by looking after her dog. I agreed without hesitation, took her number and called her after work. We agreed to meet, and she suggested that I stop by to see the house and maybe spend the evening together. I told her that her outfit looked very young on her. She was wearing a tight t-shirt with thin straps, and fortunately I was able to compliment her figure and said that she always looks great. She shared with me her secret that she had never had children, and therefore she still feels young and attractive. This outfit accentuated her figure, and it seemed to me that she had some of the most beautiful shapes I had ever encountered. We had a great evening, which ended only when she insisted on meeting my parents. With such an age difference, she couldn't understand that they wouldn't approve of our relationship, and I ended the relationship. There were many more stories, but 2 are a little uncomfortable to remember them. Both related stories happened when I was younger and had just started my military service. We organized a small party with my friend and a few girls at his dorm. In the end, they lost consciousness, and one of them and I decided to take advantage of the opportunity and started having noisy fun on the couch. Unfortunately, this attracted the attention of the others, and they woke up. The situation was as follows: everyone got up and left, leaving Evie, and I continued to sit on the couch. Not long after, my friends returned with other people, walking across the room to see what was going on, and loudly voiced their dissatisfaction with the sofa. At this time, another friend enters with a sad expression on his face. When he notices Evie in the room, he apologizes and says that he will return later. I reply that there is no problem, and he sits down on the armrest of the sofa. We start talking, and he tells me about his recent separation and difficult times. We're talking about relationships and broken hearts while I'm still sitting on the couch. After the conversation, he thanks me and leaves. I'm continuing what we've been doing before. That was the end of the first story. The following story is related to Evie, because we continued to date for a while after that. One night, a few weeks or months after the first story, I was lying in bed watching Jurassic Park before going to bed when I heard a knock on the door. I thought it was one of my friends who someone decided to prank, so I opened the door. An unknown girl entered the room, tucked her hair under her face, and turned off the light. I was stunned and asked how I could help. She turned to me and said, trying to change her voice, that I was good at running away from problems. It was close to the end of our conversation. I replied, well, yes, I think so. She started talking about how difficult it is for her to cope. She feels lively and mischievous today, and I am young and stupid, and it seems that all the anger is directed at me. She put him in my bed, and we got down to business. She reached orgasm several times, after which she got up, put on shorts and ran out of the room. I sat there, stunned. Remembering the past, I convinced myself that she was sloppy. A few days later, I started rinsing my mouth with undiluted alcohol, and I told this story to Evie. Turns out she knew who I was talking about. This mysterious girl was among us at night when we were drinking and talking about physical relationships. She told her stories and presented herself as a very positive person. But then she just left without telling anyone where or why. It turned out that she was in my room. It's a very strange story. If you like these topics, click the like button and subscribe to my channel to always stay up to date with all other videos. I used to work as a bartender and abuse alcohol, so I've had some of the worst stories. One of them is related to the case when I had a little fun with a woman I met an hour before the end of my shift. She was a little older than me, 47 years old, and I was only 21, but she was very attractive and flirted with me by buying me a drink. After work was over, we went to my house, but I didn't want to wake up the neighbors, so we had sex on the couch. The most terrible thing was that she later confessed that she was married. I don't like cheating, so now I always clarify the relationship before physical contact. Another story is related to how I met a girl at a party when I went out for a smoke. It turned out that she had just broken up with her boyfriend. After 10 minutes, we were in the room and engaged in intimate affairs. I always feel like that was the worst thing I've ever done. Another story is related to a hot 60-year-old woman I met while relaxing in a hot tub at a hotel. We met at a party dedicated to my grandmother's 70th birthday, where only our family members were present. After a long conversation, she invited me to her room, and I learned a lot of new things. Although some of the communication was pleasant, I felt used after everything that had happened. Once I visited a girl's house to spend time, but to return home I had to drive along the Atlantic City Expressway to the right exit, where the exact fare was 75 cents. Unfortunately, I didn't have the right change, so she started looking for it in her purse. In the end, she found 2 fours, 2 dimes and a nickel. Apparently, I'd become the butt of jokes about my stinginess. I soon finished my current business when the bus driver guy climbed the stairs to the roof. We hurriedly gathered, apologizing to him. He just smiled and asked us to finish quickly. Story number 10. One day I was playing the online version of GTA as a female character when a man came up to me and asked if I wanted to have a good time. What a reasonable man, I agreed and got into his car. He made me sit in front of him, was untidy, and constantly made nasty jokes at me. Despite this, he protected me from other players, gave me access to beautiful cars from additional content, and helped me with missions. For a small fee, he even took me to eateries where we ate burgers and tacos. In the end, I did it again, because thanks to him I was able to buy my first good car. By the way, I'm a guy, and that's why, maybe, there was a desire to sometimes play for a girl in games. They always seem to get everything. Story number 11. A few years ago, I received a message from 2 girls who looked very similar to each other. We talked for a long time and decided to meet together. I drove them to the car in my taxi, they got out and the first girl asked how well I had a good time. We were flirting all the time, so I smiled, hoping she would notice it. She gave me $10 and continued to flirt. After a few minutes, she did something obscene, then walked away and said, "Wait, give me back my $10. Something funny, every time I think about it. Story number 12 is probably the time when I was having fun with my step-cousin at my own cousin's wedding. Although technically we met earlier that day, when my uncle stopped the trailer to visit us for a while, we didn't communicate. But at the wedding, we asked her if she wanted to dance later, and about 20 minutes later we were in the barn and performed the no pants dance. We then repeated this in my apartment, where I was staying, ordering my brother to go upstairs with my noise-canceling headphones so that he would listen to loud music. She was dating my other cousin at the time, her stepbrother. She was a great girl, and I think there's nothing wrong with this situation. Story number 13. A strange girl texted me, even though we had never met in person before, and asked if I wanted to have fun. It happened at 2:30 a.m., right after I got home from the party. I called a taxi for her and found that she didn't look like she was in the photos at all. Anyway, I was drunk enough and called a taxi again, so I was only gone for 47 minutes. The worst moment was when she asked me if I should lose weight. When I left, I thought she was joking and just laughed. She looked at the floor and said, "Okay, it doesn't matter, that's not what I thought." In a voice full of disappointment. I felt really bad after this story. Story number 14. I met a girl in Las Vegas at an electronic music concert. This is the first time I've tried drugs. She danced, looking back at me, and said she really liked my beard. We walked off the dance floor and she said she was a Sunday school teacher, but don't worry, she still knows how to have fun. Soon, she offered to have fun with me as soon as we left. We met my roommate, with whom I shared a room, and told him that I was coming back and he shouldn't come anytime soon. He winked and the girl and I went to the taxi. There she said that she does not wear underwear. I checked and she wasn't wearing it. She liked what I noticed. We ended up in my room, where she let me do whatever I wanted with her. She stayed the night, and left in the morning without stealing anything. It was a nice bonus. For some reason, we exchanged phone numbers and she sent me a dirty video.